Bawo, como tu tá? What is good, my people? Today, we are going to dive into what is folklore. I have been listening to quite a bit of folk music today and folklore music, and I was sort of struggling to decipher which is which, right? And I saw that Cask Theology had a video outlining what is folklore. So if I know what folklore is, that means I also will know what folk music is, right? But before we get into this video, do me a solid, hit that like button. And if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and your question down in those comments below. Also, this video will be the first link in the description. Go show our person, Cask Theology, some love. I appreciate you, my people. Without further ado, let's get into it. Dale.
And beer, and a little bird told me that we're looking into folklore today, so let's go grab our drinks and take a look.
Okay.
Folklore is a concept that's been around since people first turned up, but as with a lot of things, it hasn't been categorised until much, much later. The word folklore itself is two words squished together, folk and lore, which anyone who's seen any of these other episodes in this series will have guessed.
I have
Let's
not.
start with the word
first
folk.
video.
The meaning of folk has changed over the years, but originally it referred to the poor and uneducated living in rural areas. A great example of its use in fiction is the term small folk in the Song of Ice and Fire books, or the word common folk, meaning the ordinary people. As I mentioned, the usage has changed, and nowadays it's used to reflect a specific group of people that are tied together somehow, rather than denoting the great unwashed. So for instance, theology folk, beer folk, English folk, musical folk, and so on. But originally, it was all about the common people's tales, songs, and stories. The word.
So, I feel like, when was this video released? 7 years ago? I feel like in 2026 that word has a different connotation, especially in the US, whereas I feel like it's used quite a bit in the Black community to describe just a person, like you folks, you know what I mean, or these folks, fill in the blanks, right? Versus someone of a particular like linking category, right? So it wouldn't be, we're not just referring to like Black folks, we're not just referring to white folks, right? We would say Black folks, we would say white folks, right? But when we just say folks, we're just referring to people in general, right? So a little bit different than how it was described here. But again, this video was, released 7 years ago, and sort of modern, terminology in like vernacular has changed quite a bit since that time.
Lore, on the other hand, hasn't really changed in meaning over the years, and comes from the Old English meaning instruction. Lore refers to the collection of knowledge and traditions regarding a subject, according to a particular group. So a great example of this can be found in tabletop games and video games, especially those of the role-playing variety. The two that spring to mind immediately are Warhammer 40,000 and Mass Effect Trilogy, both of which have got material written about almost every detail of their worlds, such as how space travel works or why certain factions don't really get on. In literature, of course, your main man for creating such things was a certain J.R.R. Tolkien, and even movies and TV get involved as well. Star Trek and Star Wars have volumes of stuff written about their backstories and how things work. So when you take folk and you take lore, you get the word folklore, a term.
Before he goes into what folklore is, I again feel like the word lore in 2026 has a different connotation where it refers to somebody's history. But yeah, I mean, I just find this stuff to be quite interesting.
Coined by a gent known as William Thornes in the 1800s, and its basic meaning is the collective tales and knowledge passed down from generation to generation, usually through word of mouth, since in the olden days, not many people could read. Now, folklore is comprised of sayings, tales, jokes, anecdotes, all relating to a particular people or group, and it's generally part of a culture's identity, much like a religion would be. However, religion tends to have rules and official stories. Folklore operates outside of these constraints, and sometimes the lines can get a wee bit blurry, such as in the case of folk religions, where local tales and rituals will merge with a religion. But that's a whole other subject. Folklore isn't just stories to tell around a campfire though, it can also be a tale similar to any of Aesop's fables, or why an object is important, or the backstory of a particular place.
So this is where I'm going to leave his video. However, if you want to watch the full thing, as I mentioned, it'll be the first link in the description. Make sure you go show our person some love. However, this sort of helps me to understand why music from Bulgaria is considered folklore and not folk music, and it's because they are telling stories in song form. So it all makes so much sense now. He did a very good job of breaking it down. And although I feel as though this video is still relevant because it's telling you the origin of the word. However, like in 2026, these words from like a sort of slang and like modern standpoint don't quite mean what it don't quite mean, as well as they're not used as I guess they're intended to be used, right? Based on the definitions of the word, the origins of the word, right? But yeah, I mean, language changes and it evolves. There's so many words that was used, back in the 90s that takes on a completely different meaning in 2026, right? It's wild, man. But yeah, my people, I want to know if you guys learned anything. Let me know down in the comments below. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.